Some people may cry, some people may be happy living, but there's always, the most important is leave that place with some emotion.
Jazz with Lionel Loueke.
Every child born today has a 50% chance of being diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic by the age of 20.
And actor Anthony Anderson.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton, Dockery.
And I'm Faithe. We're glad you could join us. This week we'll discuss diabetes and men's health with actor Anthony Anderson and Dr. Ramel Smith.
We'll also profile jazz artist Lionel Loueke. But first we look at a small African community resettled here in Milwaukee.
In 1999, the United States declared that the Somali Bantu refugees fleeing the civil war in Somalia were a priority, and the government began an ambitious resettlement plan.
In 2003, Milwaukee was one of 50 American cities to receive a number of Somali Bantu refugees, over 600 of them. Bobby Drake says 200 of them are in a very special place, at the corner of MLK and Wright.
Clara Mohammed is a school unlike most in the Milwaukee area.
Well, Clara Mohammed has existed for over 40 years. It began as a private school run by families who had a dream of giving their children a good education, which they financed themselves. As other programs became available to the school and our enrollment increased, it went beyond the Muslim population because we have all faiths represented in the school. We are also now a choice school. Following that evolution, we've had an influx of Somali and Somali Bantu children.
They also serve a very special role in the immigration process of the Somali Bantu children. They have never read because they have no written history. Their language is based completely on oral tradition.
Why don't you read what you got? This?
Sister Aziza, what brings you to Clara Mohammed? How did you end up at Clara Mohammed School?
3 years walking.
You've been working here 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years walk. Before all in Chicago, moved to Chicago, come in Milwaukee. All I come to here, children or school Clara Mohammed. All I walk in here.
Sister Aziza tells us that she needed more than food share and has been working in the kitchen at Clara Mohammed for the past 3 years. But the journey to get here was a long one.
Kenya, Kakuma, America, come.
That's quite a journey. That's quite a trip.
Before refugee come to Gahale, all refugee come to Gahale 15 years.
15 years?
Years of refugee come to Gahale.
The refugee camp Sister Aziza speaks of occurred during the Somali Civil War. Many Bantu were forced from their lands as militiamen from various Somali clans took control of the area. With them being the visible minorities and possessing little in the way of firearms, the Bantu were particularly vulnerable to violence and looting.
Now, why do they come to Clara Mohammed?
They've heard about us. When they come into the United States, they go to various points in the country, but many of them are looking for a Muslim school. Many families are looking, and they hear about Clara Mohammed School. And they then migrate to Milwaukee because of the school.
Now, would you say that the Bantu children and the American-born children learn differently?
It takes a lot of patience to work with the refugee children.
Now, do they work together in the same classroom?
They work in the same classroom. Okay. They work, but also we have other enrichment programs, other Title I programs that are helping them. Depending on how long they were in refugee camps, may have been exposed to English classes and they may not have been. So when they come to us, they truly have an immersion process into the English language.
And what does the staff do to assist in that immersion process?
It's school-wide and it's community-wide, and what we have found is that because these children and their parents are so eager to learn, they have made us, they have pressed us to stretch to things that we never thought of doing.
Like what? Give me an example.
Oh, well, children may come to you on a snowy day with flip-flops on the bus, but because they want to come to school, they'll be out in the snowbanks waiting to come. So we accommodate those children. We make sure that they're well-dressed, and then once in school, you'll find that because they're so eager to learn, they insist on being taught. Teach me, tell me what this means. I don't understand. What does it say? And that is a little different from the typical situation that we may find in classrooms, in urban classrooms now.
I also spoke with the Clara Mohammed High School principal, Sister Basima, to see what the difference in the learning curve is among the older Bantu students.
They are the hardest because I think for whatever reason, I think some of it is age and the way they acclimate them into our culture. They have them thinking that they have to go to work right away. So they're not really concerned with learning, just being able to communicate enough to fill out an application and to go to work. The good thing when I get them, say middle school, elementary school, that's the best time.
Because if they come in a group, one of the positive influences that they've had is they are so thirsty for learning, and they are so not afraid to not know the answer.
The daughter of Sister Aziza, Habiba, has attended Clara Mohammed since middle school and has ambitions of helping others as she has been helped. Was learning to write the language difficult at all?
No, writing was easier for me, but speaking was hard for me.
Why? Why was that?
Because if I see English people they speaking English, I thought they were speaking different language, and I started talking to my language, and I was confused, and they started teaching me. That's why it became difficult for me to speak English.
Habiba was one of my first students that were Bantu, and Habiba was very, very obsessed with learning and still is. She's now a junior in high school.
And what were some of the lessons that you learned that the students taught you?
They taught me that they value education, that they respect the teacher. The teacher in their culture has a very high position.
The Somali Bantu in America have a thirst for knowledge that keeps them reaching for every opportunity available. How many of the Bantu students go on to college?
Of the ones that I've worked with, all of them.
Really?
All of them. They're very serious about education.
You may remember Anthony Anderson from films like Barbershop or Hustle and Flow, or more recently on TV in Law and Order. The actor and comedian has been in over 20 films and numerous TV shows. He is now one of the faces for the Lilly USA Fearless African Americans Connected and Empowered Diabetes Initiative. He joins us now on Black Nouveau. Welcome to Black Nouveau, Anthony. Anthony, you've had a diverse career as a performer. How early did you know you wanted to be on stage or in front of the camera?
You know what, I've only wanted to be three things in life. I wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys, I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to be an actor. And at the age of 9, I realized that if I became an actor, I could become all three of those things and whatever else I wanted to become in life. My mother was doing a production of A Raisin in the Sun at Compton Community College, and I just happened to be sitting in the back of the theater playing with my younger brothers. And I looked up on stage and saw her rehearsing, and at that moment, I said, that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and here I am.
And how did you prepare for a career as a performer? You know, at the age of 9, having that desire, but you know, you had to do some things to prepare for that.
Yeah, well, anything that required me being in front of a live audience, you know, a spelling bee, oratory, you know, reading poetry, reading aloud in class, being a part of school productions, you know, at the early ages, that's what I did. I was also accepted into the high school for the performing arts in Los Angeles as a theater major, then accepted to Howard University in their fine arts program as a theater major. So, you know, I've been training at this since I was 9 years old, and that's been the background of my training.
And now you are a spokesperson for diabetes.
Yes, I am.
And I understand that you were diagnosed about 7 years ago with type 2 diabetes. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a little longer than that. You know, 8 years ago, I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. You know, subsequently, my father was diagnosed and lost his battle due to complications of diabetes. And a couple of years ago, my mother was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. So, you know, this is a passion of mine. It's near and dear to my heart because of how it's affected me and my family. So I sought out Eli Lilly and their FACE initiative and asked them if I could be a part of this to help bring awareness and help educate, you know, the African American community on this disease that, you know, that's crippling us. You know, every 50% or every child born today has a 50% chance of being diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic by the age of 20. You know, and that's a staggering number. And a quarter of the people who are diagnosed with diabetes or who have diabetes don't even know that they have the disease. So this initiative that we have here is about managing diabetes. It's also encouraging people to go to the hospital to get screened to see where they are and if they fall into that category, so you know they can make the necessary lifestyle changes to live with this disease and not die from it.
What do you mean by managing the disease, Anthony? What would that mean for me as a person? I was recently diagnosed as borderline diabetic, so I'm learning all of the different things that I need to do, but what do you mean when you say that?
Changing your eating habits, you know, lifestyle change, eating healthier, and exercising. You know, everything is good in moderation. So we're not saying you can't eat this, you can't eat that. It's just that we live in a gluttonous society, so we overeat. You know, we oversaturate our foods with fats, with salts, with sauces and things like that, you know, and sugars. So when I say managing it, it means watching what you put into your body, making sure that it's the healthiest thing for you, especially if you're borderline. The FACE initiative has a great website that you can log into, and it's face-diabetes.com, face-diabetes.com, that you can go to and have all the answers to any question that you want to answer. And they've also teamed up with Ebony nutritional cookbooks to give you healthy alternatives to some of the foods that we love to eat. They're not giving us substitutes, they're giving us healthier alternatives to it.
Why do you think it's so hard for African American men to take proper steps in treating diabetes? I mean, you know, did you have that challenge as an African American when you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
No, that challenge wasn't there for me. The challenge, especially for men, is to get them to the hospital just to get a regular checkup. You know, some of these things can be detected early, so you can make the necessary changes in your diet and in your lifestyle to help you with this. So if we were to go get our annual or semi-annual checkups like we should, you know, we would be a lot better off. But as men, we're stubborn, and we don't do that. You know, it's unfortunate that we have to have events like National Take a Loved One to the Doctor Day, but we need to do that.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay, Faith, thank you. All right, boo-boo. You just cut me short. It was like, it's over. I got what I need. I'm done with you. You're throwing me to the street now.
Oh, I love that comedy.
Okay.
A recent survey commissioned by Esquire magazine confirms one of the concerns voiced by Faith and Anthony. Men don't go to the doctor. According to the Esquire survey, about half of the men between ages 18 and 50 don't have a primary care physician, and a third haven't had a checkup in more than a year. Why is that? And what keeps African American men specifically from taking better care of themselves? Dr. Ramel Smith, welcome, sir.
Thanks a lot for having me. That's a big question. And I think even before we talk about just African American men, we talk about men in general, specifically from a Western society. The way we're socialized as little boys. When you fall down, what does your dad say? get up, you're not hurt. So we're automatically inclined to think, hey, we can't really show our true feelings. Yeah, because if so, it's a sign of weakness, which is the opposite of what man is. So when you think about that just from a man's standpoint, but then you add on some of the aspects of being an African-American males, it's 2011, but our minds don't forget things. And when we think about something just as evil as the Tuskegee experiment, from 1932 to 1972, we saw the ills of what the American government did to certain men, specifically African-American men, and we see how the government used their medicine to be evil upon us. And those are things you don't forget. So you start to think, wow, if I go here, one, I'm admitting something that's weak, and two, I'm not even for sure the people I'm going to have my best interests at hand.
So history plays a part, and this prevents many African-American men from going to the doctor. But Doc, how do we change that though?
You know, that's a big question, because first what we have to do is show that, well, one, we have to get some of our own things. Because I tell you, for example, a lot of my families, I tell them about some medications and things like that, and they say, oh no, we don't want to do that. But then I tell them about a man like Dr. Carter on 24th and Burleigh, and all of a sudden, African-American male who's been in the community for years, who've been proven to help. So what we have to do is find somebody who they trust. And once you find somebody who they can trust, then that becomes a better thing. So who do you normally trust? You trust people who look like you, but not only look like you, but really service you in the way you need to be, where you get results. So as soon as we start to have places, and it doesn't necessarily have to look like you, but that's a good start, have places that help you, those are the places we go to.
Doc, how much does denial play a part in this?
Oh, denial is a big role inside of it. It goes back to the socialization piece we mentioned earlier. When you were hurt, you were really hurt as a little boy, but I'm not hurt. You kind of gave that sense. And it's the same thing as a man. You have your wife telling you, go to the doctor, oh, I'm okay. And even though you're moaning and groaning around the house because it's something within our socialized DNA, if you will, that lets us know we're really not hurt when we are. It's very difficult to admit. And it's not until something becomes way past the point to even being able to be helped that we go in, and then it's too late.
Let's put this in a preventive medicine context or early detection. Yeah. Oftentimes we have a tendency to wait until something is wrong. Definitely. Whereas if we go in early, you can catch it early, you may be able to get it cured. Talk about that.
Well, you know, I think the best thing you can do from a preventative standpoint is raise your boy to do that. Raise that young child to do that, because when you're thinking about it as a young boy, the first thing you know is what you know. So if you go into the doctor once a year to get a checkup, you're going in 2 times a year to get your teeth checked, you're going in to get your eyes checked, those are all the things that you know. So if you instill those things into people when they're young boys, they start to feel better with it and get results. But if you start to talk about a young man who's never been to the doctor, what do you have to do? Well, one, we have to educate. We have to let them know what are the pros of doing it and what are the cons of not doing it. It's just as you said, the con is if you don't go when you go in, it's usually too late, and nobody wants to hear that death sentence when they go in.
You were saying earlier that this is just not African-American men specifically. It's men in general. Men in general. Doc, what is it about us as men and dealing with our health care that we don't do too good of a job in that?
Well, you know what, the number one thing is ego, though. Because we want to say, hey, you know what, I can fix this myself. Just as a man would not ask for directions when he's going when he's lost, it's the same thing with your body. I'm the owner of my body. I'm the expert of my body. Nobody can do this better than me. I don't need anyone telling me what to do. That's the whole part of manhood, is an independence inside of it. And when you have somebody telling you to do this or to do that, something that you don't want to do in the first place, it's a form of emasculation, which most men want no part of.
You were talking earlier about getting people that you're close to encourage you to do things. What role can religious institutions play in doing this?
Well, you know what, I think specifically when you talk about African-American males, the black church is probably the most important place, because that's a place where we can say we have some trust that we can go into. So most black churches will have things. They'll have like, hey, bring a friend to church day so you can get your blood pressure checked, you can get your cholesterol checked, you can have different types of screenings, education, psycho, or whatever type of education that it may be, to educate the people on what they need to do.
In about 30 seconds, Doc. What can the community do to assist with this overall?
What we're doing right now, first what we have to do is educate people, tell people you need to go. Sometimes it's a matter of ignorance where they say, I didn't know, some black men didn't know, I didn't know I need to get my prostate checked. I didn't know that blood pressure ran high and that could definitely kill me. And then the next thing what we have to do is we have to encourage different family members to say, hey, I love you, let's go in together, let's do this. If it's a brother, bring in your brother. So we have to do it as a family unit. The African-American community has always been known about the village, and we have to keep that village concept.
Briefly though, just to follow up, but what if you run into resistance? I have about 15 more seconds.
you're always going to run into resistance. And I tell you, the first thing, what you tell them, you say, well, you have two options. You can either get this fixed or you can die. And if they choose the latter, then there's nothing you can do. But if it's someone who has sense, they're going to go with the former and say, well, let me go in and check about this so I don't. And you can encourage them by saying, it's for your family, it's for those loved ones, it's not just about you.
Dr. Ramel Smith, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
The sound of jazz, created by a group whose members are from 3 different backgrounds and cultures, the Lionel Loueke Trio. These musicians with a love for jazz, Massimo Belcate from Italy, Frank Nemeth from Hungary, and from Benin, West Africa, Leonel Lueck, met and merged at Berklee College of Music in Boston. Their training in classical, Hungarian folk, rock and roll, and percussion blends together to create a jazz sound that's unique.
We say it's a mix of our cultures, you know. It's a mix of African music, European music, classical music, jazz. I think the common point is jazz. That's our, you know, basement. You know, we have the jazz. That's what we have in common. But then we have different influences from our background and our culture.
I think we try to play something that is contemporary of today, because so often when people hear the word jazz, they think automatically black and white, something old, 40, 30 years ago, which is true. I mean, that's when the jazz was born, but it's been alive since then, and it's been evolving, and we try to keep it alive, not just reproducing what's old. We don't want to play museum music, just try to emulate the great master. Obviously we listen and we love the great masters, but we try to say, tell our own story with that language.
We live now, so we're trying to play truthfully what is now. You know, like those people, whoever, like, doesn't matter, 80s or 70s or 50s or 30s, they were playing the music of now. I mean, that time. So they were not trying to play something that happened before.
First jazz music I heard was different than what I used to hear. So that's what caught my attention first. I was like, what's that? You know, something different than what I heard until that point. So I said, well, I like it. You know, I like it. I want to learn it. So I just start transcribing by ears. And then realize that it's based on improvisation. Because in my mind, at the beginning, it wasn't about improvisation. It was just like music I was playing in Africa. You know, basically they could do the same thing again. You know, but when I discovered that it's based on improvisation, it even makes it even better for me, because I was like, oh, that's cool.
When singing, Leonel uses a click sound that's part of a South African language called Xhosa.
It pretty much complete whatever I'm trying to do between the melody and the click and my instrument, so I can have some polyrhythm. Right? Could be 3 different parts going on at the same time. Mostly I sing in fon, which is my language. I use a harmonizer so I can, I spread the voice. It could be like 4 parts harmony, and the click is in behind.
It's a one-man band.
Loueke's guitar is an art piece. It's custom made and has a classical neck. It's a hybrid. It's a cross between a classical and electric guitar.
The sound of it just blew me away, and of course it looks great, and after every concert, everywhere since I had that guitar, every day there's always somebody asking about the instrument.
The main attraction of jazz is improvisation, so I really hope that the audience can feel that excitement that we feel when we try to create something new.
The most important thing is the feeling.
Some people may cry, some people may be happy living, but there's always, the most important is leave that place with some emotion.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching.